Happy Saturday, everyone. I am Big Italy 42 here with Josh Shepherdson at BChad50 the FanDuel Punchout. We're going to be discussing all of tonight's game starting at 7:05 here. And real long night last night with a 19-inning game there. And I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. How about you, Josh?
Nor did I. I mean, I had to be the cheerleader for your big take last night. So I think you'll sacrifice the sleep for the 20K takedown in the Grand Slam last night at FanDuel. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I could definitely say that I've had many less productive nights of no sleep than that one. So I don't mind a little bit of tired today. So if you notice a little bit of lagging, that's due to that. So bear with me just a little bit here. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk here. Starting pitcher to start things off, of course, most important position on the board at FanDuel where you only get one. So we're going to be talking about the top options, some cheap options. We don't need to tell you that Clayton Kershaw, despite the tough environment and a solid lineup, he's going to be your top option if you can afford him, but it's going to be really, really tough to afford him, especially with the game in Coors. You're going to want to get some hitters from there. So you want Kershaw on your cash games. It's going to be tough, though.
Yeah, I mean, Clayton Kershaw, have the FanDuel game open right now. He leaves you with an average salary per player of $2,888. It's not a lot of wiggle room. There are enough other options on the slate that I think I'm actually going to end up fading Kershaw on, I'd say, more lineups than I typically do in cash games. I'll put together a couple Kershaw lineups, but there's a couple other names that I like. If you're looking in the cheaper value bin, I'm looking at Doug Fister at $8,600 against the Phillies. Basically, the game got away from Gio Gonzalez yesterday due to control issues. Well, you're not going to see those with Fister. Fister walks almost nobody. He's facing a punchless Phillies lineup, so he's a big betting favorite. I like Doug Fister a lot today at $8,600. FanDuel doesn't really go crazy rewarding strikeouts anyway, so Fister's lack of strikeouts doesn't bother me that much. I do expect him to get the win and eat innings, and that's really what you're looking for from Fister.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. I mean, Fister, a nice safe play, like you mentioned, a solid favorite, so should be getting the win against that lineup, and I like that call. I mean, you're saving yourself over $3,000 from Kershaw, and you're going to need that to spread across your bats unless you want to end up with just a ton of value, and at that point, you're just hoping that one of them pays off big time, and not a risk I'm trying to take today on a 9-game slate.
Exactly. The other names that are pretty obvious to look at are Bumgarner and James Shields in San Diego. Another low total. Going to be tough to get a win for either pitcher because both lineups are punchless. As we saw last night, brilliant game from Brandon Morrow, brilliant game from Tim Lincecum, and it didn't matter. Joaquin Benoit ended up with a W because neither offense could put runs on the board. So if you're looking for safe, scoreless innings, Bumgarner and Shields are both strong options, but it's tough to bank on a win, even from the favorite Bumgarner, just because his lineup is bad and facing a good offense. Cole Hamels is a guy I'm probably not going to use today. Nationals lineup's too good. Too many decent pitchers around him at similar price points. Julio Teheran's a betting favorite despite being backed by a bad Braves offense. I like Teheran a little bit, $9,200. And if you're really digging for bargains, this isn't really your cash games pick, but you want to put together one of those loaded lineups at Coors Field. Dylan G is $6,500 against a bad Braves lineup. Going to give you some offensive opportunities.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, we were talking about it before the show. He's pretty much the epitome of average. Not a guy that's going to get you a ton of strikeouts, but not usually a guy that's going to get rocked either. He's going to give you a quality start, hopefully a win in that matchup, and that's all you can really ask for at that price tag. And you can stack whatever you want. All right, we're moving on here to catcher, and there's a couple options that we like here today. Don't really need to pay up for the huge top options. I mean, one guy you had mentioned before the show that you really like, and I'm on him as well, assuming that he's in the lineup, is Miguel Montero at $3,100 at Coors Field. Obviously, that's the only factor you really need to know here with Montero.
Yeah, I mean, he's facing a right-handed pitcher, too, which is his preferred split, and a righty that's bad against lefties. The only other name that I'm really looking at catcher, assuming Montero's in the lineup, is Russell Martin, $3,000, really patient hitter against Ubaldo Jimenez. Jimenez is terrible with issuing walks, so might get a few free passes there. Once he's on base, you got a chance to score some runs. So I like Martin at $3,000. He should be your contingency plan if Montero's out.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. And at first base here, luckily we've got some values there at catcher. And first base, we've got Anthony Rizzo is going to be the top option. Obviously, once again, the Coors Field effect at $4,700. Obviously not paying up for Paul Goldschmidt against Kershaw if you want to take that route in the tournament. That's the ultimate contrarian move because I just would never ever do that. But Adam Lind, another guy facing a bad righty at home. His price still creeping up at 3,700, but still, that's another thing we were talking about before the show. Still a fair price for him in that matchup, though.
Definitely. On the other side of the Rockies game, name I forgot to mention before the podcast, we got Justin Morneau against Jason Hamill for $4,000. Good price tag there. The other name that I'm looking at first base is a guy that's only first base eligible here because of the single position eligibility at FanDuel, and that's Ryan Zimmerman, $3,600. Cole Hamels is in a great matchup, but Zimmerman hammers lefties. Good home run park factor there at Citizens Bank, so I like Zimmerman.
Yeah, I like that call a lot, and he's a guy that always seems to fly under the radar. Seems to be a great cash game pick, but he's got a little bit of power, like you mentioned, so he's a good, nice tournament play in that matchup that should be really low owned as well. All right, moving on here to second base, we've got not a lot of expensive options, really. I mean, all the guys you're really looking at right around 3K and below. I mean, you've got Howie Kendrick, Neil Walker, guys in a decent spots there at 3,300 and 3,400. Which of these guys you prefer? If you got to pick one of those two, who are you looking at?
I'm taking Neil Walker. At this point, Jimmy Nelson, solid pitcher, probably a little bit better than Archie Bradley, or at least probably a little bit safer than Archie Bradley. But Walker, cleanup hitter, preferred side of the platoon split. So I like Walker as the cleanup hitter. Actually, both he and Kendrick are cleanup hitters. So you're getting cleanup hitters at a bad position for fairly cheap. That's nice. Chase Utley's really the only other name that I'm looking at second base. If you're not using Fister, you get a three-hole hitter who makes a lot of contact against a pitcher who gives up a lot of contact. Pretty good formula for getting some base hits, and I like Utley a little bit at second base today as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point about Neil Walker and Howie Kendrick there. I mean, you mentioned second base. We've equated it to the small forward of Major League Baseball before, where it's a weak position usually. That and shortstop, of course. But like you said, I mean, you can get yourself a cleanup hitter at a fair price with some power upside. So I'm taking that all day long with these guys. Next up, hot corner, third base. You've got a bunch of guys with some substantial upside, some power here at the top. You got Josh Donaldson is the guy that you had mentioned we were talking about before the show. Insane power against lefties, facing a righty today, but not a great one. So at $3,800, I think he's in a good spot as well.
Good lineup, one of the higher totals of the day, and Donaldson is an above-average hitter against righties, and Ubaldo Jimenez isn't exactly good against right-handed batters either, so I like taking advantage of one of the lesser pitchers on the hill today, and Donaldson looks pretty good. If you want to spend another $100, you can get Adrian Beltre against the artist formerly known as Fausto Carmona. Beltre looks good, but the lineup isn't particularly good in Texas, so you do have some concerns there. Good lineup spot for him, but $3,900, probably a little rich for my blood, but he's your other real top option. If you're in a tournament and you want to dig a little bit deeper, we can go with 0 for the season Manny Machado against Aaron Sanchez. Probably going to be under-owned because he's off to a slow start. I mean, if he had this slow run in the month of June, nobody would think anything of it because it's the beginning of the season, the sky's falling. At $2,900, if you're using Kershaw, you got to find some sub $3,000 player somewhere. Machado looks like a pretty darn good one to me.
Yeah, and then once FanDuel implements the web gem points, then Manny Machado will make for a must play every day too. All right, moving on here. Third base, pretty straightforward, like you mentioned there. We're going to go ahead and move on here to shortstop, where your top option, if you want to pay, is going to be Troy Tulowitzki, of course. But yes, he's at home, but he's also against a righty, which, it's not that's a bad matchup for Troy Tulowitzki. But obviously, if you're going to be paying this premium, and it is a very premium price tag, you want that to be against a lefty, and preferably a bad lefty. So outside of a core stack, or maybe I'm stacking a team that's cheaper to stack, like a lesser-owned team, you can slot him in there with your mini stacks. Outside of that, I'm not touching Tulowitzki at $5,400.
Yeah, he's too pricey for me. Too many good pitchers on the hill. I'd rather take the security of a good starting pitcher and sacrifice at shortstop. I mean, most people are going to be punting the position anyway. If there were a bargain hurler that I really liked, I would justify getting Tulo on there, but there just isn't. Dylan G, average. I'm not sacrificing from my top SP to go get Troy Tulowitzki on most rosters, though. So, The names that I'm looking at, Starlin Castro's the other side of that matchup at Coors, $4,100. Not righty isn't perfect for Castro. You'd prefer he's facing a lefty, but you love Coors Field. You gotta love Coors Field. There's three names that I really like, and they're all bunched together in price. Jimmy Rollins leading off against Archie Bradley in the desert. Chase Field, good park factors, good lineup. Archie Bradley, I love him as a prospect long term, but this is his first big league start. He had control issues last year. Dodgers might hang some runs on him. Grab the leadoff hitter in that lineup for $3,700. Speaking of runs scored and leading off, Jose Reyes leading off for the Blue Jays against the aforementioned Ubaldo Jimenez. $3,700, really good price tag. He will get to hit Jimenez as a left-handed batter, so he does get to take advantage of Jimenez's platoon issues. And then Eric Ibar is the ultimate platoon issue grabber, I guess you could call him. He's facing Jeremy Guthrie, who you have Guthrie's WOBA against left-handed batters, and it's staggering.
Yeah, 364, by far the worst of any pitcher at any price tag today. So definitely want to be attacking Jeremy Guthrie with whatever left-handed bats you can get your hands on today.
Yep.
All right, so I got to ask, you don't think that Kyle Kendrick is going to throw another shutout today?
No, I mean,
stunning.
If he does, I hope he buys a Powerball ticket for his sake, because he's going to be on some kind of luck streak, and he needs to really maximize that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world might come to an end if Kyle Kendrick throws any more than 2 to 3 shutout innings in Coors Field today. So if you want to ride that hot streak, you go right ahead. You will be doing that on your own. I want no part of that. All right, next up, the outfield here, where Mike Trout, of course, not a lefty. Jeremy Guthrie better against righties, but if you want to pay up, if you want to be different, Mike Trout. But for me, we talked about this also. Corey Dickerson at home against a righty, almost always going to be my top option in the outfield. I think that's the same for you as well, and should be the same for other people, because whether you want to believe it or not, he was the #1 hitter, and this does include Mike Trout against right-handed pitching last year. So sign me up for Corey Dickerson.
Yeah, he hammers righties. You're getting the park factors. You're getting the thin air Coors Field, really doing awful things to pitches for pitchers. I mean, it really limits the movement on some of their pitches and makes them that much more hittable. Beyond Dickerson, the other top names that I'm looking at, his teammate Carlos Gonzalez is just $100 more, or $100 less, I should say. Jose Bautista, assuming he's back in the lineup, he left early with cramps yesterday. I'm sure he'll be fine today. $4,300, good price point to get that kind of power against Jimenez. And again, one of the higher totals of the day. Carlos Gomez at home against a righty isn't perfect, but he's hitting leadoff. I'm not ready to buy too much into Vance Worley's numbers last year. Worley's okay. He does a good job of getting ground balls. Gomez isn't a perfect play, but he's at least usable if you're looking for, I guess, a good price point on a superstar with a high ceiling. Gomez can offer that. Digging a little bit deeper, Jorge Soler is a guy that I forgot to mention before the show, but $4,000. We clearly don't believe in Kyle Kendrick today, so getting some Jorge Soler exposure for $4,000. Yasiel Puig, $4,000 against Archie Bradley. I just think that it's going to be very difficult for Bradley to have a good turn today in his first turn in the rotation against an above-average offense like the Dodgers. So really, those are the names that I'm looking at. And then two more in the sub-$4,000 price range. We got Charlie Blackmon leading off for the Rockies against a righty for $3,700. You got to love it. And then the name that I love the most today, Cole Calhoun, $3,500, left-handed batter, leading off against Jeremy Guthrie. When the Angels lay it to Jeremy Guthrie today, Cole Calhoun's going to be the one leading the charge.
Yeah, completely agree. So there's your outfield. We went ahead and nailed it down for you. So pretty easy. If you want to take the best matchups and the best spots, go ahead and get yourself some Cole Calhoun, get yourself some Corey Dickerson, and then mix and match elsewhere. But some values we highlighted every other position, so you can definitely be able to fit in those bigger bats in the outfield there. And with that, that's going to wrap things up here for us on the FanDuel Punch-Out. And Josh and I will be back with a few more podcasts today as well. And have a good day, run well, and we will see you tomorrow.